This is the Heartland Institute. They are a longtime partner of ours. They do great polling. But what we're talking about tonight is Democrats hope China beats America in a trade war. And that just fits that Democrats are anti-American. Like it just fits. They want China to win. And of course, the Republicans are way more likely to say that China is the bigger enemy facing America than Democrats. Democrats, number one, say the Republican Party and then Russia, whereas Republicans say China. Now, I will say what they say about confidence intervals is 95% of the time it's going to be within the margin of error. And this one feels to me like one of those 20 out of 20 outliers, like a critical role. And it feels like a left out outlier. And so I wanted to caveat that to everybody. It just happens. And I'm not going to go in and really fudge the numbers or anything like that. I'm just going to give you the data and say, well, I don't know. But almost 1,100 US likely voters. It was conducted a little over a week ago. And this is not one of our overnight polls. This is part of a full standalone poll. So we have more demographics. We have a lot more questions we were able to ask. And we also weighted this one to the 2024 recalled vote. You can see 45% Harris, 46% Trump, and 9% people who were like third party or didn't vote or whatever. Trump approval in this one, again, farther back when Trump approval was less than it is today, we hit him underwater 3 points at 47% to 50%, but really low strong approval and a really like a normal strong disapprove. So a left or leaning poll, but despite all that, which of the following do you think is better, a free market economic system or socialism? And free market wins 71% to 12%. And I often get this question, and here is the latest time we've asked it. And so people still hate socialism. Only 12% think it's better than capitalism, basically. And it's more likely to be women who don't say yes to free market economy. And 18 to 29-year-olds, 55% say free market, 24% say socialism, though. So, like a ton of them are rightly saying they're not sure. And the older you get, the more capitalistic you are. So, that's a worrying trend, but I don't think it's a problem because I think all those people will get a cold glass of reality when they wake up. 67% of Democrats still say free market system, only 15% say socialism. So, again, they like to worship the socialistic economies of Europe, who, let's be fair, are at least somewhat subsidized by things like are paying their national defense for them through NATO. Um, but yeah, like 15% of Democrats say no to like only 15% say yes to socialism. That's low. And you have open, naked socialists trying to run for a president right now in the Democrat Party. It's really wild. But hold on to that thought because we're going to see stuff that's even more wild. Not really a lot of signals anywhere else. Like the less income you have, the less likely you are to say free market, but they still don't want socialism. They want something else. This is a sign that our free market economic system is not working for lower income individuals, but not a very strong signal again. Protestants are the most capitalistic. I don't know. That could be noise. Uh, yeah, like everything's really flat. 64% of Harris voters say free market economy. Only 16% say socialism, and 6% of Trump supporters say socialism too. I don't know. They probably weren't reading. I cleaned this data a lot, and I thought I got everybody, but you can never have everybody paying attention to every question, and so it happens. You have a very favorable, somewhat favorable, or very unfavorable impression of communism, and communism only has a 7% very favorable rating and an overall 18% favorable rating and only a 57% very unfavorable rating, but still 3/4 of voters say no to communism. Pretty strong headline and not much of an age signal except for older voters like, nope, not doing that. They grew up during Red Scares. They don't want any commies. And women are not that far off from men. Black voters and Hispanic voters are less likely to have an unfavorable view of communism. That's interesting. It's 50, what's that total? 48% of black voters unfavorable, 58% of Hispanic voters. So a majority, there is not a majority of black voters who have an unfavorable view of communism. Democrats do, 71%. Independents also 71%. Republicans aren't that different, 78%. All right, we're getting to the good stuff now. The next president, the next presidential election's 2028. Would you like to see a Democrat socialist candidate win? The next presidential election, only 31% say yes, 46% say no. 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds say yes. Nobody else does. Black voters, 52% say yes, 22% say no. So that's a pretty big signal. 56% of Democrats. So they're okay with socialist as long as you put Democrat in front of it. Democratic socialist, whatever that is. 79% of Republicans say no. 42% of independents say no to 23% say yes. And to look at the 2024 vote, half of Harris voters. 71% of Trump voters say no. So it's interesting, though. Like, you'd think that the Trump signal would be more pure, but it's not. And that's because Trump got a lot of Democrats and stuff. So strange that the people trying to fill the vacuum that the establishment Democrats have left open is naked socialists. And yet socialists have a very strong brand disadvantage, which tells me people might like Bernie Sanders or AOC, but I don't think they'd win against Trump. Let's see how they do. This is Democrat primary voters, Democrat likely primary voters for the 2028 election. Kamala Harris, 32%. Bernie Sanders is ticking up. Kamala Harris is going down. This is, I think, a younger poll than most of ours usually are due to a couple of reasons. And so that might explain some of it, but also movement here. Bernie Sanders has been out there on the stump and making a lot of interviews and speeches. Gavin Newsom's still stuck at 10%, so that hasn't changed. And AOC still under 10%, hasn't changed. So there's something about Bernie now where he's now actually meaningfully challenging Harris. And that's a head scratcher. Like, obviously, there's a high chance that it's just a lake house play. I think there's zero chance that the Democrats are going to allow him to win the primary. But look, like 18 to 29-year-olds actually like Harris more than Sanders. That could be a Brat Summer effect. And Bernie does better with middle-age Democrat primary voters. And Democrat identifying Democrat primary voters, Harris is taking 49%. This is probably a better column to look at. Sanders is down to 16. She is still the front runner. Still the front runner. Bernie's only getting 20% of it again with self-ID'd liberals. Harris is getting 37%. She wins pretty much everybody except for independents. Still the front runner, but losing steam. I think that one speech she did was horrifying. The one that everybody said that she seemed like she was drunk. But here are the matchups. These are the first real matchups that we've done. I don't think you can really count the Stephen A. Smith, JD Vance one because, to be honest with you, Stephen A. Smith was very high, not sure. Not a lot of people who know who that guy is. People know who AOC and Bernie Sanders are. And so many caveats. Again, I think that this is a leftist outlier potentially. Again, it's so super early. Again, JD Vance hasn't had the benefit that AOC and Bernie Sanders have of the same amount of reach. People don't know him that well. Hasn't had a lot of time to rack up resume bullets, but If the 2028 presidential election were held today and the candidates were J.D. Vance and AOC, J.D. Vance only wins by 3 points. Now, this is, I will say, a poll that was weighted to Trump +1. And so this is better, but also 15% say some other candidate, a whole bunch say not sure, 5% say they wouldn't vote. So the fact that she does as well as she does, and the fact that he isn't pulling a higher number than 36 is a problem. What it means is that Trump has not yet converted a MAGA successor, basically, in my opinion, in the views of the public. And one of the ways you can look at that too is Vance is only getting 71% of the Republican vote, but AOC is only getting 60% of the Democrat vote. So that's why he's winning. And they're awash with independents. So here's the thing. If I go up and look at independents, in this poll, Trump won them by 5 points. And they have Trump underwater with favorability. Some of this could be the independents here aren't happy with what happened. And again, this was back during the 100-day PSYOP. But the fact that they're awash among independents. But look at this. You throw Bernie Sanders in there instead of AOC, and Bernie Sanders is beating J.D. Vance by 4 points. Experience, name recognition, I don't know what it is. Authenticity, I don't know. But that's a problem. And it's something that they got to work on. Doesn't mean that J.D. Vance is going to be the candidate. Things like this might be a concern. But look at how many more Democrats would now vote for Bernie Sanders. And Sanders is up 12 points among independents. Weird sample, maybe? I don't know. There are a lot of conservative independents out there. Maybe they're not in this poll. But this set of independents likes Bernie Sanders. 9 points more than they like AOC. And Bernie Sanders actually peeled off some people. Vance is only getting 27% of independents in this poll. That's not great. Okay. All right, we good? The final one. This is the one that we talked about before. The Trump administration is currently in the midst of a trade war with China, with each side imposing tariffs on each other. Who do you hope wins the tariff war? Only 57% say the Trump administration, but it's a poll where Trump only got 46% of the vote. 18% say China, a low number, but let's see who says China. Not really a signal across gender or age. Black voters say China, 33% to 32%. Pretty anti-Trump black population here. 32% of Democrats say China. 30% say the Trump administration. 88% of Republicans say the Trump administration. Strong distaste for China among Republicans. And independents as well. 54% say the Trump administration. 16% say China. And keep in mind how underwater Trump was among independents in this sample. And so that's one good piece of comparison here. If you recall, I think Trump was underwater 1 or 2 points in today's polling among independents, and he's underwater 56 to 40, 16 points here. Super left independents. I could have edited for that. I could have said, my independents are a little jacked up, but I think it's a little too early for me to go saying I know enough about what this new paradigm is to go collect more data or whatever. So interesting. I think it's a fascinating poll. Maybe you can look at the spreadsheet, find something else as well that you think I might have missed. And we have more coming out from that poll as well. Heartland does really good work. If you've learned something, please follow us at rasmussenreports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter, and thanks for watching.